working royal member of the royal family and has been for years. And it's not just some of these charities. If you look back, she's been with Save the Children, for instance, since 1970. She's been engaged with a charity which works with horses and disabled children since 1971.
Wow.
I mean, these are back when she herself was in her patronages, meetings and duties they spent a day. And this journalist just said she just knew everything about this charity. She knew all the people involved, the work that they were doing. So lending her name to it, of course, draws attention to it, allows for better fundraising. This is, of course, what the royal family, the whole ethos of the royal family for generations. Creativity being stunted. She says that when, she first, and, as a result of the royal family, she says that when she became a mum, she would have thought that she'd be able to have a baby on her hip and give speeches, but then, the whole drama and the pain and everything that was caused by being...
In a moment that stunned both the audience and the entertainment world, Tyler Perry took the stage at the 2025 BET Awards and did something no one expected. He subtly, but unmistakably, called out Meghan Markle. Perry, a longtime supporter of Meghan and Prince Harry, had been instrumental in helping the couple settle in the US after their royal exit. But during his speech, his words hinted at betrayal, entitlement, and emotional exhaustion. What began as a tale of generosity has now become a headline-grabbing fallout. The carefully crafted image Meghan spent years perfecting is now under fire from someone who once protected her. The consequences were swift, public, and brutal. Investors backed out, media spun into chaos, and even Hollywood allies distanced themselves. In this video, we'll break down the 10 key revelations that have shaken Meghan Markle's empire to its core and made Perry's speech one of the most talked about moments of the year.
Meghan Markle, she may have stepped down from royal duties more than 5 years ago, but she keeps taking aim at the monarchy. The Duchess of Sussex has made reportedly at least
The 2025 BET Awards were supposed to be just another glamorous night until Tyler Perry took the mic. Known for his humility and grace, Perry stunned the crowd with a veiled but powerful speech about helping someone during a low point, only to be abandoned. He didn't name names, but the context was crystal clear. Perry's words, "Some folks borrow blessings like they're owed but never return the favor," cut through the polite glitz like a knife. Those familiar with Perry's past relationship with Meghan Markle immediately understood who he was talking about. It wasn't an angry tirade, but the honesty behind it hit harder than any outburst. It was a public declaration that even the kindest hearts have limits. In that moment, Perry became the unlikely whistleblower, exposing what he saw as emotional exploitation. The entire audience felt the shift. The Hollywood fairy tale surrounding Meghan and Harry cracked, live and on stage.
As ever, her new company, the very first thing she said was, look, when I had the TIG, which was her previous lifestyle website, I loved cooking and I loved gardening and being a hostess, and she basically said I had to keep my...
When Meghan and Harry left the royal family in 2020, they found themselves isolated. Tyler Perry stepped in with open arms, offering his $18 million Beverly Hills mansion, covering security and footing bills as they found their footing. To the world, it looked like a gesture of kindness. But behind closed doors, Perry's generosity stretched far beyond what most knew. He was their shelter, safety net, and quiet advocate. He believed in their journey, not just as celebrities, but as human beings seeking a fresh start. Yet, as time went on, Perry reportedly felt the relationship shift. His emotional and financial support turned into expectations. Meghan and Harry flourished with million-dollar deals from Netflix and Spotify, but gratitude, Perry says, never came. His help wasn't acknowledged publicly, nor was it reciprocated privately. What began as a generous act of friendship eventually left him drained, financially and emotionally.
Her creativity being stunted. She says that when, she first, and, as a result of the royal family, she says that when she became a mum, she would have thought that she'd be able to have a baby on her hip and give speeches, but then, the whole drama and the pain and everything that was caused by being part of...
The final straw came in the form of a private jet request. Meghan reportedly asked Tyler Perry for access to his jet, calling it a simple favor. Perry declined, not because he couldn't afford it, but because he felt used. Sources claim Meghan's response was harsh and ungrateful. That exchange changed everything. It wasn't about the plane, it was about respect. Perry had given so much with no strings attached, but this moment revealed what he felt was a pattern of entitlement. He realized he was no longer seen as a friend, but as a resource. The emotional weight of that realization began to build, and the silence that followed grew louder than words. It was in that moment Perry began reconsidering everything. His generosity had gone unacknowledged, and now it was being expected as if it were owed. That's when he started thinking about going public with his story.
Right, Tyler Perry, the man who gave them a roof when no one else would, has officially walked away. And from the tone of his message, he won't be coming back. One of the most jaw-dropping moments in Perry's speech came.
Behind the scenes, Perry wasn't the only one raising concerns. According to multiple sources, Meghan had developed a reputation for treating favors as currency. She would collect support, connections, endorsements, loyalty, only to discard people once their usefulness ran out. Colleagues, producers, and even staffers began warning Perry, saying Meghan wasn't someone who reciprocated support. Still, he ignored the red flags, choosing to believe in her sincerity. But with time, even Perry couldn't deny the growing pattern. Her deals with major platforms came with no acknowledgement to the people who lifted her up. Gratitude was missing, and so was basic reciprocity. Perry's BET Awards moment wasn't just personal, it was symbolic of what many insiders had felt but never voiced. Meghan's image of being silenced by the royal family had made her a sympathetic figure. But Perry's experience exposed another side, where power and relationships were allegedly weaponized for personal gain.
Creativity being stunted. She says that when, she first, and, as a result of the royal family, she says that when she became a mum, she would have thought that she'd be able to have a baby on her hip and give speeches, but then, the whole drama and the pain and everything that was caused by being...
Almost immediately after Perry's speech, the professional dominoes began to fall. Meghan and Harry were in the middle of pitching a new documentary focused on power and freedom. Ironically, themes now clashing with public perception. Investors who had been interested in funding the project pulled out. One even said, "I don't want to be involved in something that feels this toxic." It wasn't about the concept. It was about the people attached. Perry's words had broken the illusion. Meghan was no longer the misunderstood underdog. She was now seen as a risk. In Hollywood, image is currency, and Perry's soft-spoken truth triggered a major devaluation. A single speech, spoken without malice, managed to halt projects, shake trust, and send a clear message. Associations with Meghan could come with reputational cost. The industry, once eager to work with the Sussexes, suddenly started treating them like liabilities instead of assets.
She's in personal fanfare for her 75th birthday, and she's instead hosted more than 100 of her charities at Buckingham Palace. So she reportedly spent more than 2 hours at this event and personally greeting more than 200 guests.
In a desperate move, Meghan's PR team scrambled to contain the damage. They reached out to media outlets offering exclusives, access, and interviews, attempting to paint Perry as bitter and out of touch. They even floated a podcast rebuttal to reframe the narrative. But the strategy backfired. Instead of repairing the damage, the PR blitz reeked of desperation. Journalists didn't bite. Some even doubled down on critical coverage, pointing out the irony of a transparency-themed documentary coming from a couple now caught in secrecy and manipulation. Social media didn't help either. Memes, commentary, and parody clips flooded timelines, mocking the narrative control. The more Meghan's team tried to spin the situation, the more skeptical the public became. Perry's silence after the speech only amplified his credibility. Meghan, who had long positioned herself as the wronged party, now looked like someone desperately trying to rewrite a story that no one was buying anymore.
And two totally different representations of what it is to be royal. That's right. She's spent her 75th birthdays in August, but obviously that's the time of the year, midsummer for the Brits, when they're not around. So she doesn't want a party, any fanfare, anything like that. She's had these 200 guests, all from 100 different charities.
As Perry's speech gained traction, more voices came forward. Former staffers and collaborators described a working environment around Meghan that was emotionally draining and hyper-controlling. A producer from the defunct Spotify deal claimed Meghan's perfectionism suffocated creativity. She didn't want partners, they said. She wanted yes men. One Archwell assistant described the office atmosphere as a place where gratitude went to die. These weren't anonymous tabloid accusations. They came from people with first-hand experience. Meghan's desire to control every detail, every narrative, and every relationship reportedly created a culture of fear and resentment. Strategic advisors were ignored if their ideas didn't align with her personal branding. For years, these stories were whispered in private, but now they were going public. The consistent thread among all accounts? A leadership style defined by micromanagement, emotional manipulation, and a lack of accountability. The cracks in her carefully curated public image were beginning to show.
Working royal member of the royal family and has been for years. And it's not just some of these charities. If you look back, she's been with Save the Children, for instance, since 1970. She's been engaged with a charity which works with horses and disabled children since 1971.
Wow.
I mean, these are back when she herself was in her 20s.
And that perhaps one of the most telling reactions came not in words, but in silence. Oprah Winfrey, once seen as Meghan's close ally, remained publicly quiet. No defense, no supportive post, just space. Sources claimed there hadn't been friendly communication between the two camps for months. In Hollywood, silence is often louder than any public statement. Other A-list connections followed suit. Meetings were postponed, collaborations went cold. Studio executives, always careful with reputations, quietly distanced themselves. Tyler Perry wasn't just a Hollywood player, he was a cultural icon who built his empire with integrity. For him to speak out, even indirectly, suggested deep betrayal. As a result, other powerful figures took note. Meghan's brand, once associated with empowerment and breaking boundaries, had become radioactive. The glitz faded, and what remained was a stark realization. When someone like Perry distances himself, others are quick to follow. Meghan was slowly being pushed to the industry's margins.
Her patronages, meetings and duties they spent a day. And this journalist just said she just knew everything about this charity. She knew all the people involved, the work that they were doing. So lending her name to it, of course, draws attention to it, allows for better fundraising. This is, of course, what the royal family, the whole ethos of the royal family for generations.
With reputations come investments, and when one crumbles, so does the other. Archewell, Meghan and Harry's foundation reportedly froze internal hiring, paused upcoming projects, and began weekly budget reviews. Netflix, once a major backer, was rumored to be reconsidering its long-term commitment. Even previously greenlit projects were now under scrutiny. The financial future of their media empire, which once boasted lucrative contracts and global attention, looked increasingly unstable. Brands that had aligned with Meghan for progressive clout now saw her as a PR liability. What had once been a powerhouse built on buzz and star power was now teetering. Without the public's trust and industry's backing, the couple's ventures faced an uncertain road. For Meghan, whose career was now deeply tied to personal branding, this wasn't just a business issue. It was existential. A brand built on advocacy, transparency, and female empowerment was now being questioned at every level.
People parking there to visit the house. It just shows how popular the king is.
That's right. This is Highgrave, which is the house that he lives in with Camilla. This is a private house, and it's only the gardens that are open, but it's open for these summer months. Can you imagine, though? You've paid effectively 1,200 Australian dollars to park your car there.
The final blow was public perception. Polls showed Meghan and Harry's support had plummeted over 30% in the US, and in the UK they were already widely unpopular. Social media, once filled with sympathetic hashtags, now churned out viral jokes, critical threads, and skeptical think pieces. Meghan's identity, feminist icon, survivor of royal oppression, self-made mogul, was unraveling. Her emotional texts to Perry post-speech, accusing him of betrayal, reportedly went unanswered. That silence was deafening. Other insiders began speaking out too. Journalists blacklisted for tough questions, consultants ignored for offering strategic advice. The emerging pattern was too clear to ignore: manipulation, control, and a culture of entitlement. Meghan's once mighty brand was becoming a case study in how quickly fame can flip. The woman who walked away from royalty in search of freedom now found herself exiled again, not by the crown, but by the very culture she once tried to conquer.
Those bus loads, those visitors, they can just pull in there, they can whack into anyone's car. There's people who live in these houses that, have disabilities that can't get to their car to get to hospital appointments.
Oh my goodness.
So, but you can imagine, somebody said to the king, do you think we might be able to, have more parking at Highgrove? If that were the case. No way, they don't want them.
Tyler Perry's speech at the BET Awards wasn't a dramatic takedown. It was something far more dangerous. A calm, credible indictment from a trusted figure. He didn't rant or rage. He didn't name names. But his message was crystal clear. In a world built on perception, Perry shattered the illusion. Meghan Markle's brand, once seen as bulletproof, now lies exposed. The fallout wasn't limited to reputation, it hit her finances, her projects, and her standing in Hollywood. The silence from former allies like Oprah, the leaked accounts from former employees, and the shifting public sentiment all point to a dramatic turning point. Meghan may have left the royal family, but she's now facing a second exile, this time from the industry she hoped would embrace her unconditionally. In the end, Perry's quiet truth did more than shake headlines. It changed the narrative, possibly forever.